Recording in progress. Oh, are we doing all from the beginning?
In the Pop Culture Cupid podcast, we talk about how pop culture influences our expectations in relationships. I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
Healthy communication. I'm Michelle. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self-relationship. We bring some juicy stories from our own love lives and dating, and it gets pretty interesting. Be focused, we're going to be to the point, and no digressing.
Self-awareness. Follow, share, subscribe, enjoy.
And like and comment.
If it's shockingly bad, we just re-record another one.
Yeah. No, I think there's some good stuff that you can just nitpick. Recording in progress.
It's what, the 13th of January today, and the sun is so bright. Like,
yeah,
we recorded an episode just before. I keep moving around to kind of like fight
it's hilarious. And you know what's really funny though is that you're wearing a tank top and I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
It's so warm.
It's like usually the other way around.
It is. It's like 22 degrees Celsius. With
no
heating.
I think it's actually colder over here. Let me look. Actually, it's not that cold today. It was colder over the weekend, but let's see. That's not where I am. Oh, it's 20 degrees here right now. So
yeah, but I've got the sun, like you can see it on the camera.
Yeah, so I don't have direct sunlight over here, so yeah.
Yeah,
but you look beautiful with like the sun glowing right on you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about the sun though.
We're not here to talk about sun. Today we are here to talk about drumroll, sex.
Yeah. Flex. Sex and flings and friends with benefits and everything in between.
Yay. So I've set the timer. Let's see if we can stick to the time. We will.
That would be great.
Because I think the episode that will have just aired last week will be our first episode about sex, like where we just generally talk about sex. So we've got several topics we'd like to cover. But this one is like the funnest one. It's kind of like flings and one night stands and it's friends with benefits and just how to navigate. And I think, there's something to say, when you're a teenager, then in your 20s and your 30s and 40s and 50s and like, all these things.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's also like,
No, well, I was going to ask you, are you partial when you were single to having flings and friends with benefits?
Well, I've had flings and one night stands, not many. I've had a couple, but I can't like maybe 1, 2, 3, I don't know. I do not like them. It's not for me. If it is for you, that's fine. To each their own, but I was just there was this one fling that I have, which I'm not sure if to consider it a one night stand or not, but there was this guy that I met. This is another story that I'm thinking of now that's also very juicy, actually. There was this guy that I met during a Purim party. Purim is our like Halloween kind of thing where everyone dresses up and we drink a lot and we get drunk. And just a lot of fun. And so I was out in town with my friend at this bar. And we met this guy and his friend. And it's just things happened. And I ended up, I can't remember if it was that night or the following night. I went home with him. And it just, I was caught up in the moment. So there was something just about, because I've never been that kind of person who just goes home with someone. I've always been that goody two-shoes who, barely ever has anywhere to go out to. But it was just like, I guess that was part of the thrill. And the whole thing itself was just subpar, especially since most men just think of themselves in flings and in one night stands and don't really know how to pleasure a woman properly. Or maybe I also didn't know how to ask for what I wanted, or both. And so it wasn't great. But I was so infatuated by him that I had to go back for more. And it was just like this, oh, it was so ridiculous. It was one of my most embarrassing things ever. And I remember my friend recorded me obsessing over him on WhatsApp, like I think that was like the beginning of voice notes. And she recorded me. I could never listen to that recording because of how embarrassing that is, which, by the way, is a very good tactic to stop chasing and stop being so obsessive over someone, is to like record yourself being that embarrassing, and just like the cringe, the cringe. But I guess sometimes we have to learn on our own skin, and I guess it really depends on the situation. But like I remember the last time I went over to him a few times, and then the last time I went over to him, I was just like, I felt so disgusting with myself. I went out, I just ran away. I went out to the car and I started sobbing. And I was like, this is never going to happen to me again. And so I don't know. So I'm like, maybe I'm just not the person for one night stands and flings, but it was just, I felt just, when it's completely detached of emotions, and when, the other person doesn't actually care about me, and it's all about his pleasure, and I'm doing things that I never would have done because of pressure, then no. So I went into like a little spiel over there, but
no, it's fine. It's
yeah.
interesting because this is one of the things where we are very different, where I agree with everything. Like sex with somebody who cares about you, for me, is always better. Like my best partner is without a doubt JT. Like it's just he's the one I feel the most safe with. And also there was growing there, and like I've learned my body and how to express myself, and there's a lot of that. But anyway, we're not talking about long-term partners, we're talking about flings. And I when I was single, I was very partial to a fling or a one night stand, and it sometimes kind of I became a bit of a, well, I mean, a slut, to be to be honest. Of just kind of like
and own it.
Yeah, exactly. There were sadly a couple of times where I didn't feel too good about myself, which is a shame, to be honest. And the times where I did feel a bit dirty, and I couldn't tell myself like, yeah, it's fine. It's just I wasn't feeling it, and that's not very good. But I'm not going to go into those. Like we can talk about those, but it's just, I think we talk a lot about how to give yourself grace and things like that, and that's not the aim of today. So I'm not gonna talk about those. I will talk about one night stand that kind of really stands out. It was one of my earlier ones where, because there are times where that you're not, there's nothing more after it. Like me as a person, I knew I didn't want to go any further in that situation. Whereas there are other times where there was a bit of an inkling. I was just like, oh, maybe I could go further with this guy and things like that. So I'm talking about the first one, right? I just become single. I knew I didn't want to get back into a relationship. I just wanted the attention, the presence of just a man with me and things like that. I was talking about it in the post-holiday episode where I have trouble being on my own. I'm happy to be single, but I like sharing my bed. Anyway, this guy, I'd seen him. I was at a club with a friend, and I saw him walk in, and I told my friend, like, I'm going home with this guy. Like, nice. I'm going home. And
that's my goal. I'm going to set my goal. That's
great.
At the
time, exactly. And at the time, this was up to 10 years, close to 10 years ago, I think.
Are we that old?
Oh, it's horrible. That old
that things are a decade ago?
And
more?
It's maybe less than 10 years ago, but close to 10 years ago. Anyway, and I'm not going to criticize my body the way it looks today, but I was slimmer than what I usually am, and I was blonde, And I was wearing a short skirt and high heels, and I was just, I was so confident in my abilities. I was just like, I knew I was in the kind of what men were looking for norms. And so I did go home with him, and it was the worst sexual experience
Ugh.
of my life. And he was the like two thrust glory type of thing.
Oh
He fell
no.
asleep. He fell asleep on my hair. There was a bit, well, yeah, similar length to what it is today, and my clothes. And I was just like, this is the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced. He was probably kind of, the fifth or sixth man that I'd slept with or something. And so what I did is that I could not wake him up. Like as soon as it happened, he just fell asleep. So I dragged my clothes from under him. I took his phone and deleted myself from his phone. Like I know that he looked for me on Facebook and he kind of like sent me a message or whatever. I deleted my number, I deleted the Facebook history, I deleted everything. Like he could not find
Oh,
me.
that's brilliant.
And then I was just like, okay, now I need because I drove back because I hadn't had much to drink and well anything to drink. I drove so I'd driven him back to his place. And I was like, oh, okay, how am I going to get out of the car park? Because he beeped me in. And I heard his neighbor kind of like waking up or something. And I was just like, oh, maybe he's leaving. So I kind of threw on my clothes, opened the door, and I was like, are you leaving? And he said, yes. I was like, okay, I need you to beat me out. And I, I could see his face of just like this girl, like, it did not have a good time with my neighbor.
No,
And
no.
I ran out and it was just, and this was like 5 a.m. or something. And I just kind of rushed home and just fell asleep. And he never found, I mean, he could not find me again or because I deleted myself from his life. And then a couple of weeks later, I saw him at another club and he was just like, do we,
You look familiar.
no, it's not even, he knew who I was. He was just
Mm.
like, but I'm sorry, did we go home? Because I remember, but I couldn't find you. And I was just like, oh,
Maybe he
weird.
just thought he imagined it, the whole thing.
Exactly. I think I think because he knew, he remembered my name. He's just couldn't because my name
Oh,
has so many ways of spelling it, and he didn't remember my surname, so he couldn't find me again. Oh, fuck. Now that I think of it, it was kind of shitty behavior on my part, but anyway, I was 22, 23.
yeah.
But but it's funny, and anytime I talk about, because I've had flings and one night stands like since him, but that one,
It sounds very awkward. And that's the thing about one night stands. For me, they always feel so super awkward. And I just like, okay, what do I do now? Unless I'm like super drunk and then, you just don't care about anything, which is not ideal either. So I don't know. The
yeah,
whole thing is just weird to me. And you're going over to someone's house where you're essentially dependent on him, especially in a situation where you can't even leave the car park without him beeping you out? And it's just, I like, maybe I also like the control of just like, not in the sense of like control in bed, because that, no, but the control of like my situation of having an escape route and
yeah.
not being, I don't know, it's just like I've had less than a handful of like those one night stands, and it's just not my thing. Was friends with benefits. That was my because, well, I had a few, but I had like one specific friends with benefits that whew, it spanned over years of like, we met when we were teenagers, um out in town, and it just kind of, every time we had just broken up with a partner, we somehow always found our way back to each other, just like by chance. There was one time we ran into each other when we were just broken up. There was one time where I can't remember, but like it was like these whole like random things where he like sometimes it was very like it was an active thing where I was like, okay, I just broke up. I need you, messaging,
Yeah.
whatever. The difference over there was that we were very good friends. Or we really cared about each other. We had great chemistry and we had a great connection. And so it wasn't just about the sex, and we also felt comfortable and safe with one another. The issue was is that we had such electric chemistry and we were so attracted to each other that we could not be in touch when we had partners because it just wouldn't work out. You put us in a room together, we're going to end up in bed. And that was, and that's the whole thing, is you have to find something that's good for you, fun for you, and that you're enjoying. It's not the point of just like getting into bed with someone just for the sake of getting into bed with someone, 'cause then you may as well just do it with a dildo. But it's about like really having fun and really enjoying yourself, and you have to find what's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't know if we define friends with benefits as somebody that you only ever see to have sex with. I don't think I ever had anything like that. Did I?
Well,
I'm
not
just think
necessarily. I think it's specifically with him. Well, we didn't only hang out just to have sex, we hung out like just in general. But when we had partners, we couldn't hang out because it was just,
yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, okay.
but I think in general it's just like a friend that you have benefits with, I
Yeah.
guess. I
I
don't
had
know. I
definitely
don't
I've
think there's
def
one definition.
no, no, no. It's kind of like, relationships and fidelity and things like that.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation where there was this one guy. To be honest, so today, I mean, I know retroactively, I know why we're not in a relationship, and I really do not regret it. But at the time, I
Hmm.
never couldn't really figure out why we weren't in a
Same.
relationship.
Yeah.
And it's the same for him, like, and similarly, like we only are in touch if we are single or if like we are in a really bad place with our partners. Um, well, he would find a way to get in touch with me when I would be in a bad place with an ex-boyfriend in particular. Um, and yeah, and it's the thing with friends with benefits is that, as you say, like it's so it's so risky. It's so, and there's always one that ends up having feelings.
Hmm.
Always,
Yeah.
always, always, always.
Yeah.
It's the cliche thing. I think with the fling and things like that, it does. You know, if you are sure with what you want, like there's no risk. But with benefit, like the regularity of it, I've had a couple. Like there was this one guy where I was so clear that I didn't want to get into a relationship, and especially with him, not because not because he was a bad guy, but because he had 3 kids. He was in the middle of a separation. He was 10 years older than me. I knew that I wanted kids. I just couldn't see it happening. I'm happy, with my bonus daughter. I love her dearly. And I always told myself, if he has one child, that's fine. But three, you know, 3 stepchildren, it's insane.
Hmm.
Anyway, and he ended up catching feelings for me. And I'm not saying that in a obviously, I'm just saying that I was so clear that I was not going there with him, and he was not so clear. And so he's the one that caught it first. And I think that if he hadn't caught feelings first, then maybe I would have whatever. But yeah, the regularity of it is it's so touchy. But again, I think then, I say always, maybe there are people who manage to keep that relationship, completely platonic, but with sex. Maybe.
Yeah. It's a sticky situation because, with us as well, with him, it was touch and go. Like I forgot to mention this, we actually started off as a couple. Like we started off as friends, and then a while after that, when we each had like a thing with someone else, and then we broke up or whatever, and then we got together, and then it just fizzled out, and then we just became friends with benefits. And it was always, I've always had that thought of, I wonder, I don't get it, why are we not together? We keep ending up
Yeah.
in this situation together with each other. We keep being drawn back to one another, but nothing ever happened. Like, I mean, it never developed to more than that. Even though I don't think it was I don't know how to explain it. I think we were both just never emotionally stable enough for it to ever get to that point. And I don't think it was ever aligned, meaning there were times where he was more into it and had more feelings, and there were times where I had more feelings and I wanted more than that. And
Yeah.
so, I guess it's a matter of timing as well, but it was just a sense of, it was very convenient for us at the time. And I think we were both very emotionally unstable. And I remember the last time I saw him was, I was right out of a relationship, and I wasn't in a place where I could deal with too much. And it's shitty to say, but I was like, I need something easy breezy, and don't come at me with your baggage. I just ended a relationship where I had to deal with too much baggage. And he threw this suicidal comment when we were in, like, after at his house. And I was like, nope, nope. The next morning, he didn't even wake up. I ran away from that, and it just, I couldn't. I was just not. I'm not able to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess you just have to be careful with these things and know when to quit.
Yeah, and sadly, I mean, it's always when it's just too late that you learn the lesson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to be honest, I just I think back to those times where mostly flings, there's some kind of regular partners, but not so much. So apart from a couple, as I said, that I regret, well, no, not regret, but kind of feel weird about. I would not change those lessons. Like even though I know I crossed the boundaries a couple of times, and
Mm-hmm.
it all brought me here to understanding I'm not gonna say, oh, thanks to all of that, I met JT, whatever. Maybe, but that can't be verified. But however, without all of those experiences and those more or less hard lessons to learn, I wouldn't be the person I am today, which is, able to express myself and my needs and say go when I wanted to go and say stop when I wanted to stop. And
Mm-hmm.
this was, even just before JT, where I'd grown into this person. And I think what I'm trying to say here is just these, well, first of all, as you said, you do you. Like if you have a fling, have a fling. If you want to have a sex friend, have a sex friend. If you don't want it, you don't want it. But then don't go back and kind of judge yourself too harshly over them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't behave in the best way and things like that, or even if you kind of, women, especially women, tend to kind of accept friends with benefits, hoping that it goes further. If you did do that, then don't be too harsh on yourself. Of just, you did it. That's the lesson that you know that that's not for you.
Yeah.
And I think today, if we took away the fact that I'm pregnant, and if we just took away the fact that I'm pregnant, but if JT and I were to break up, I don't think I'd go back to those situations ever. Even though I enjoyed most of the situations in the past, I've changed, and today I want something different,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I'm in a
Yeah.
relationship, to be honest. I mean, you grow in and out of these phases, and it's just, you get into these situations where you judge yourself and then you judge others, and then you try to, impart wisdom, and that's not the point. It's just you try you learn your lessons. As long as you're safe, you're
Yeah.
not, as long as you're not doing anything, sexually dangerous or like physically dangerous or things like that, then, you'll just learn the lessons and it's fine.
Yeah. And I remember being so scared to be with someone again after the first situation I was talking about. And sometimes we need to, I guess, that kind of like fear, it puts like this little fear and doubt in us that maybe it's good in a way because it protects us. It prevents us from going with the wrong people again, and and staying safe, and not, just going with anyone just for the sake of it. But it's also important to get over that. Just because you had one bad experience with one person doesn't mean you're going to have the same bad experience with someone else. You just definitely have to learn what in that experience wasn't good for you, what you could have done differently, what didn't work, and what you do want next time. So it's just a matter of learning from it, and making better
having
choices.
fun. But having
fun. That's the whole point. The fling, it's just like this whole, exciting.
Yeah, because you said something about not being able to ask for what you wanted, which is sadly a very feminine trait.
Yeah.
But I say if you do that, then just go and be selfish. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and try it. Anyway, flings and flings go be selfish. And if you're gonna have
Yeah.
a friend with benefits, reap benefits from it. Like tell them what you want, and if you don't care about what they think because you're not thinking about a relationship, just go for it. Say, I want to test this and I want to do this and I want to.
Yeah, and just enjoy it.
And you never know, like they may be really receptive.
They might. This is the time to explore, to discover what you like and don't like, what you want,
Exactly.
what makes you feel good, what doesn't, and just, go for it and not be ashamed of it and not let anyone make you feel bad about it.
Exactly. So tell us what you guys think about flings. Have you got flings? Have you got a fancy story? And we can talk about it next time.
Yes. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you are.
Exactly. Bye, everyone. Happy New Year. Oh, no, it's too late for that now. Bye.
Too late for Happy New Year.